All right, everybody, good evening, good morning. This is our first official interview of Unmistakable Voices, and I could not be doing it with a better brother, Mr. Walter James Lovett II. How you doing, my man?
Doing good, Jason. How about yourself?
I am great. Now, for those who don't know, I'll give y'all a brief background. So, you know how they do those shirts like he's a this and I'm a that. So he's the author, I'm the voice actor. We'll come up with some shirts for y'all so y'all can be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But me and Mr. Walter, brother Walter, I'm so used to call him brother Walter, but y'all just see the familiarity we've grown in the repertoire and the rapport, is just natural, and that's what we love about it. But me and Walter, we've collaborated on two projects so far. One is out right now, if you guys haven't checked it out already, called Boanerges, Sons of the Rise of the Sons of Thunder. And then the second is coming out. It should be coming out this week, if not next week at the latest. Depending on when y'all see this. Obviously, this is January of 2026, but if y'all see it later, it'll be out. If y'all see it, early, it probably won't be out yet, but that's okay. And that book is called The Watcher Rise of Gideon. And again, these books, as I told Brother Walter when I was producing them, when I was audio voicing over these books, I was like, yo, this is cold. Because I mean, again, I don't know how other voice actors do it, but I know when I'm in the booth, and even if I'm recording something serious, like I'll come out of character for a second and be like, "Oh, that was cold. That was dope," because as a writer and a voice actor myself, I'm like, yo, when I see good content that's not just somebody AI posted, hey, write me a book, or somebody who said, yo, I don't, you know, I'm just throw something up there and get somebody to read for it. You know what I mean? Like
Right, right.
that matters. So with that, I'm gonna let Brother Walter talk to y'all for a second, and then we're gonna get into these questions and anything else that we might have. So
Right. Bro, Jason, thank you for having me on the show today. This is awesome. Just definitely made my week. And yeah, I'm just excited to talk to you guys about about the work that I've been doing with Brother Jason. Um, this series, these characters, especially Gideon, they mean so much to me for several reasons. Um, and honestly, I mean, I think anybody who picks up a copy or even just listens to, like the audio will really, really, it'll really resonate with them. I can't see somebody just listening and not being moved by it in some way, because I've come across some pretty critical people over the years, but like even they have had to do the hat tips. So I think if you check this out, you're really going to enjoy
all right, that's from the author himself, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'll piggyback on that just before we get into these questions, y'all, because I know when I've been spreading the word of the book, and I've been telling people, just to give y'all a brief journey. So I've officially been a voice actor for 2 years, long form narration. That's what we call audiobooks and things like that. However, I have been I've had this voice since puberty. You know what I mean? So we've been, I've been manipulating it through movies and TV and video games and different mediums and things like that. But when I tell you, we've and I'm sure Brother Walter's got the same thing. So I'll say we've gotten such a positive response from friends, family, even people outside who don't know, because I'm for those who don't know, I mean, again, I've always been a businessman, always been an entrepreneur. So, and I just gravitated towards marketing. So I've always been like, hey, yo, let me slide this in real quick. Hey, yo, you listen to audiobooks? I promise that's my number one line. People be swearing, like, trying to talk to every girl. I'm really not. I'm trying to get you this audiobook so you can
it.
have
Right.
listen to something to listen to. I promise. I'm so married, y'all. But it has been such an overwhelming response because people they want to have something real. They want to have something that they can sink their teeth into, and it's not just push notification. It's not just an ad. It's not just it's real, genuine people who put their heart, their soul, and their love into their work, and you can tell it in every line, in every emotional delivery that I produce and give to these stories. Like again, I can only do that because, I'm not saying this just to hype him up or put him on the pedestal, but because Brother Walter put the time, the care, and the love into these books and into these characters to make it something that when I step into the booth, I don't just read the words. I make it into life. I turn it into a movie, and that's exactly what I hope you all experience when you read these books and the books are to come. All right. So, with that being said, how did you get into writing, Brother Walter?
Yeah, so I've always been a little bit of a storyteller growing up. My mom used to write me notes. You know, she would write me notes and like put them in my lunchbox and stuff like that. Um, and it was she and I, it was like our way of communicating with one another. We talked as well, but like, you know, as a young kid. And so I learned to communicate by writing that way. And it really, really helped me. Of course, when I was in elementary school, this is when all this was happening. My I always really excelled at English. English was something that I was really, really good at. And my teachers noticed that I was just really good at it, creating short stories and stuff like that. And it got to the point to where I was getting involved in creative writing contests and stuff like that. And there was a real, um, I guess there was like a real rally behind me to really pursue it at a young age from teachers in public schools. Um, when I got to middle school, it dropped off a little bit. I didn't really do it as much.
Mm-hmm.
I had gotten involved with track. I was doing track and I was doing concert band,
Okay.
and so I kind of stepped away. But my mom and I were still writing, still communicating that way. Of course, I kept a journal, and then when I got to high school, I kind of pivoted. I was still doing sports and I did marching band for a little bit, but I got really, really, really into collecting comic books.
Mm.
And I would read these comics. I would get tons of them because like my father was a comic head, like he
Mm.
was in comic books and stuff like that. And so some of the stuff I got from him. And then I had like an uncle who's passed on now that was also really into it as well. And so I would get stuff from him kind of secondhand whenever I would see him. And and when I got into high school, I was very active in sports and stuff like that. But I kept a little job working at the supermarket on Sundays after church. And so I would go to church and my mom would drop me like afterwards or whatever. And so I've always had a little, cash or whatever. And there was a comic book shop in the same plaza where this grocery store was. And I would go there and I would just, sometimes buy 5 or 6 books at a time, just, reading through them, just looking at them. And it was really, fostering kind of the relationship that I wish I had with my father.
Mm. Mm.
And so kept with it and everything. And so long story short, I um, I used to envision what it would be like to have my own comic book
Mm.
where we would have the character and where the hero would look like me, talk like me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is why when you said that you saw yourself in Gideon, I was like, thank you, Jesus, because like that's all I want. I want
Yeah. Yeah.
and so but I didn't have that growing up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know that there were I think it was in 2016, 2017. Luke Cage was a big
Mm-hmm.
phenomenon.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I remember those comics. He used to go by Power Man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He was like stuck in the 70s. Like he was always
Yep.
kind of a B-list hero.
Yep.
But they really made him cool, which I like. I love that. I'm not complaining. But just growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, there really wasn't anything like that for
Mm-hmm.
people that look like you or I.
Yeah.
And so my writing, I know it sounds cliche, but I really want to give the glory back to God because I mean, my writing really could have kind of gone anywhere, any direction. You know, I was just kind of, for the longest time, I was just kind of looking for like a lifeline to try to, um, get a hold of something that would catch. And right around 2009, The Watcher caught, and it was,
Mm.
I've been with it ever since.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow. So I want to, because again, I don't just want to interview, and a lot of times I like to educate, especially when I have people who look like us on here, because as you know, in writing, there's so much potential for us as a people, you know what I'm saying, especially as men, to tell our stories, to tell things we wish we had when we were growing up, as you said, in the 90s, early 2000s, because I remember I wasn't so much a video game head, but I wasn't so much a comic book head, but I was a video game person. You know what I mean? So I remember hours upon hours upon hours of, and I'm an only child. So, I would play Devil May Cry, Kratos, Assassin's Creed, things like,
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
all these different things, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times, if I was around my cousins, we would play Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Mario Kart. I mean, the list goes, Smash Bros. On and on and on and on and on and on. Right. And the one thing, as you said, just to highlight that point, very rarely did I see someone that was authentically, not, subjectively, but authentically 100% a person of African descent. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, this is a black person, no matter where they're from in the diaspora. I'm like, this is a black person. Like, the
Right.
closest I got, and I felt, and I mean, I'm sure a lot of people felt the same way. I was like, man, Kratos is black. I don't care what nobody say. I'm like, and then I'm like, look,
Yeah.
he from Sparta, but he one of us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah. Yeah.
when I, learned that TC Carson was voice acting him, and then now Christopher Judge, and I
Yeah.
was like, yo, like these are brothers. You know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
know.
you know what I'm
I
saying?
know.
Like, I again, and this is no shade, no disrespect, but I'm like, I can never see like John Hamm or Leonardo DiCaprio voicing Kratos. Like, it just wouldn't feel right,
No.
because like when that man says boy, you know what I'm saying? I'm like,
Right.
yo, like, yes, sir. Like, what I do? You know?
I know exactly what you mean, bro.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like even just, watching somebody else play it, and things like that, because I know that's, and I hate to, you know how you get to that point where it's like, man, I'm old. But you know how kids do nowadays. They watch everybody play the game and don't play the game themselves. And I'm like, that's a weird job, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. But I find myself doing the same thing, because I'm like, I see why you don't necessarily have to spin, and you still get sort of the same experience. But no, that's cool. But I see the progression over the years, from elementary school to high school to adulthood, university, things like that. And as you said, you always stuck with it. I think sometimes, especially in the creative field, and I often tell my wife, well, I used to have to often tell my wife this, but when we were first getting together and starting out, I'm like, the creative field, authors, dancers, actors, I mean, any of that, there isn't necessarily a direct path. You know what I'm saying? Like you can go to school for it, obviously, but the road to becoming, I would just say known, not even prominent, but just known,
Right.
is very up and down.
Very much.
Anybody who's in it, anybody who's doing it will tell you it's a wave. You know what I'm saying? And it's a wave because, as you said, you don't know what'll catch. You don't know what people will like. You don't know. A lot of us, we don't come with a business background. I know I didn't. You have to learn these things. You have to learn, as James Brown put it, you got to be the show and the business. You know what I'm saying? And I think those were two of the most powerful lines that he's ever quoted to have said, because a lot of us, as my mama said growing up, we can do the 360 windmill dunk, but we can't make a layup. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
the layup process is oftentimes, again, more difficult than the 360 windmill dunk, because that means you went through the, hey, I'm not a great, for example, I'm not a great writer yet, but I want to become one. How do you become that? Well, you got to read a lot. You have to, love writing. You have to be okay with failure. You got to be okay with criticism. You got to be okay with people, as you said, not being receptive at first. Nobody believing in you. Nobody, what? You want to break a comic book? I'm sure they told you. I have no doubt. I have no doubt because
Yeah.
crabs gonna be crabs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's been a journey. I mean,
Yeah.
just to say the least. I mean, I when I got out of college, I had actually sent in like several submissions to like DC Comics, Marvel
Okay.
Comics, and I think Image, so like the big
Mm-hmm.
three,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't get any hits. Later on, through a roommate, a friend, I had found out that a lot of the people over at DC, I can't speak for the other, big hitters, but they are they essentially hire family.
Mm-hmm.
They they're like they're owned by Warner Brothers, but they're very driven by a family connection. So, for instance, the woman that worked there, that I met through a mutual friend, she didn't even like comic books. She just said that it was, her family had done it since like the 30s, and it was her job now that she's graduated college. And
Wow.
so, because I was talking to her and I was like, "Hey, can you get me on? These are my ideas." And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like, she's like, we're just family. We just, you know,
Yeah.
and
It's internal. Everything's internal. You know.
yeah.
Mm.
And so I would say that that's probably even true today because I mean, even like some of the other writers, big name writers that, wrote, have written characters like Green Lantern and Vixen and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They aren't they're never like staffers. They're always brought in to do like a certain project, and then they're let go or their contract runs out, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's how Milestone Comics came
Mm-hmm.
about. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would say that the industry is probably still like that even to today. So
Yeah, yeah. Again, y'all, like we said, educating, putting y'all up on game. Not saying that it's impossible, but
yeah,
essentially what I say in those situations is if comics and this world of entertainment is where you want to go and there is no table for us, then let us create one. You know
that's
what I'm saying?
right.
Again, because
Exactly. Yeah.
you I mean, I look at characters like Icon from Dwayne McGuffin.
McDuffie.
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, he's from just to throw it out there, people. I'm from Detroit. So he's from Detroit. And I was like, oh
Oh,
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't know
yeah,
that. Wow. Okay.
yeah. He's from Detroit. He's from Detroit. And I remember when he passed away, my mom told me, he's like, yo, have you ever, read any of these? Because again, like I said, I didn't really get into comic books until much, much later. But she was like, have you ever, heard of any of these characters or whatever? And I was like, no, I've only heard of DC and Marvel and things like that. But
Yeah.
she was like, this guy, he's from Detroit. He's where we from. And, he's done all these characters. And as I read up on him, I was like, yo, man, like this is the type of information that we need to not only celebrate but know about because it's inspiration. You know what I'm saying? It's inspiration to hear a brother Walter. It's inspiration to hear, my story, my journey is say, yo, if and I've always said this whenever I try to enter a place, if only one person that looks like me has done it, then that's enough for me to do it. Because again, like that gives me the carte blanche, the confidence to say, yo, if they can, I can. And I know they need a friend. So and even though we understand that, not everybody that skin folk is kin folk, but a lot of times as you rise and you get into certain places, people just want you to win. They want you to win. You know what I'm saying? They want to see you succeed. So
For sure. For sure.
with that being the case, what was the inspiration? I know you said 2009, 2019. Let me make sure.
Yeah.
But what was the inspiration behind uh specifically the characters, not so much the work, because we got that, but just the character of Gideon. If for those who've read the book, the character of the twins, I'm assuming they're twins, right? They are twins. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like what was the inspiration behind those characters? Was that life experience or just like I these are just people who came to me?
Yeah. So the inspiration behind the characters are they are largely life experiences.
Okay.
Um, the thing about the Watcher universe is that I don't necessarily have to come up with like wild and crazy stuff because just being, like you said, of the African diaspora,
Hmm.
just being a black man in the South for most of my life, like um, these are experiences, and so uh, I would say largely um, the characters are just like my life experience, kind of like manifested into these characters. And then some of them are people that I know, relatives, people that I've, friends, close friends, even some acquaintances that I've, worked with throughout the years. And so that's how the characters have kind of come about. Um, as far as the situation or like the premise of the book, that actually came um, actually around like 2017 because prior to this, I did have um, Gideon, although he wasn't called that initially, and
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
was a lot different. He was more of the traditional superhero trope when I
Okay.
first created him.
Yeah.
From 2009 to 2017, he was really just kind of run of the mill. You probably wouldn't have even paid any attention to him because he was very different, so to speak. Um, Part of that was because I had enlisted some friends from college um, that were helping me with like the writing and stuff. And I don't want to be inappropriate, but they were not of the African diaspora.
Mm.
But they were comic nerds, but they could not relate to our struggle, our experience here in the United States. And it kept showing through the work, like I had one co-writer who wanted to change who we now know as Gideon the Watcher to an Irish American
Mm.
character, and I was like, well, I was like, I know the Irish, they do have a rich history. I know that they, were indentured servants for a while, and they've, there was a potato famine and stuff like that. But I said, I'm not really feeling him for this, and they wanted actually to make the character more like the Punisher. I don't know who
Mm.
he is, and so I was that wasn't really what I was really feeling. Then I had another friend who wanted to make him more. Um, he wanted to make him totally mystical. Which,
Mm.
if
Okay.
you, yeah, so like if you've, I don't have to tell you, but for
Yeah.
somebody
Okay.
watching this,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
the Watcher is a mix between gritty, grounded combat, close
Yeah. Hmm.
quarters fighting, urban
Hmm.
warfare,
Hmm.
but it's also like spiritual. So he's got spiritual powers that manifest and allow him to do some extraordinary things.
Yeah.
This particular writer could not grasp that, and he wanted to make him more like a wizard or more like
Kind of like a Gandalf or something like that.
yeah, kind of
Okay.
like a Gandalf or Doctor Fate. Like if you wanted to
Okay.
talk and see
Okay.
Doctor Fate,
Doctor
or
Strange,
like
Doctor Fate. Okay.
yeah, Doctor Strange, Doctor Fate, and so um, I wasn't really feeling that either. Although I do like that those characters and even the Punisher I like, but that wasn't really what I was thinking. And the trope, like we kept going back to how he gets his powers and stuff like that, and it just really didn't fit. Right around 2017, I had kind of a spiritual awakening, and I know that sounds cliche, but I grew up in the church. My father is a pastor.
Mm.
My mom has always been active in the church, and
Hmm.
then I come from a family of preachers. So
Hmm.
great my grandfather and my great grandfather were preachers. I never met them,
Okay.
but even in broken families, I still was able to attain the knowledge that like I come from a line of preachers. And Luke Cage kind of touched on this in 2017, I think, but they didn't really explore it. But yeah, I had a kind of a spiritual awakening, and I kind of went from going from like just a casual churchgoer to somebody that really, really, really tried to absorb the word and really to try to understand it. And um, something happened. I kind of almost got caught up in something, and I ended up calling on the name of the Lord for real, calling,
Mm-hmm.
calling for help, and he got me out of it, and I'm alive because he got me out of it.
Mm.
And
Wow. Wow.
ever since that, like, just things really started switching. So like the tone of the comic switched. I was like, whoa, what am I doing? Like, this is, because it was just like it was really tropey. It was really just,
Mm-hmm.
but then I was like, okay, I need something grounded that reflects what's going on in our world. And so um, human trafficking was
Mm-hmm.
was huge, and so I started
Still is.
digging into it, doing the numbers, and long story short, I found out that our people, um, we are the most human trafficked, like throughout the whole world. From
Mm-hmm.
there, I learned about organ harvesting, melanin, how there's they
Mm-hmm.
harvest our melanin, and so I was like, nobody's touching this. Nobody's talking about this. I said, I have a chance here to tell people about the God of the Bible, tell them about a serious thing that's happening right under their noses, and also tell people who they really are according to scripture. And so once I knew those things, or once my eyes were open to them, like everything, just the story just really, and even the characters kind of fell into place, because then my life started to make sense, because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so this explains this, and this is why this is in my family, and why this generational curse. Like, okay, I get it now. And so I was able to blend it all together, and it wasn't hard. It was like it was almost like breathing. It was just second nature. I would just put my pen to the paper, so to speak, and it just
It worked. It worked like that.
worked. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's so many points that you hit on. I mean, again, and I know we called each other brother in, just formality, but I feel like we're such brothers because your story and my story in terms of family is very, very similar. Like
Yeah.
grew up in church, everybody a preacher or something type of something in the church, you know what I mean? And just I know I didn't have my spiritual awakening back in 2017 because 2017 I was still out there doing many, many things. One thing
It
for sure,
happens.
trying to graduate from university. That's for sure. That's one thing I was
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to
yeah.
do. But I would say within the last 2 years, I had mine because I just, as I'm sure, again, some people are, I was just frustrated with Christianity. I was frustrated with
Yeah.
the process of the church and the traditions and the rituals and people just going and not getting the healing, not getting the prosperity, not essentially not living the kingdom lifestyle that I was like, yo, this is what the Bible's supposed to be. Y'all not living it, things like this. And I think
Yeah.
one of the big things for me growing up, and I'm sure you can relate to this, is in our community, we have such a lack of resources, but we will go every Sunday and give our tithes and offering faithfully. And
Mhm.
it just upset me to my core because, as I said, being from Detroit, in Detroit, and again, I love my Muslim brothers and sisters. I'm just making a point. Dearborn is literally like 20 minutes from Detroit, depending on where you are. And, again, some parts of Christianity, preach, oh, they're otherism. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna get into all the things that they are, or what people say. But what I will say is I was like, they may be others, but they have a community. They have resources. They have wealth to create a space and a place that wasn't originally dominated by people from Middle Eastern descent. but now it is. I mean, again, you go to Dearborn right now, the police, the realtors, the library. I mean, everything has catered towards a people who said we're going to unite and create a community
Right.
around who we are, what we believe in, our faith, our resources, our cuisine, everything. And it's a vibe. Like if you go there, it's a total vibe. Um, but that was the thing. I was like, yo, we've been doing this for if y'all know y'all history, 450, like almost 500 years, y'all. And what are we doing? What are we doing?
No.
Like we literally we go here on Sunday, we come back on Monday through Saturday, and we struggling. And I'm like, that it just didn't make sense to me. You know
Yeah,
what
it doesn't. Yeah, and
I'm saying?
that's really what I arrived at too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And well, I don't have to tell you because you narrated it, but that's essentially the world that the Watcher lives in.
exactly.
He's not antichrist. He's not,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
he's
yeah,
not
yeah.
saying,
No, no, no. Yeah,
F the church and all this and stuff like
yeah.
that. But he's just saying, okay, we've been looking at this wrong. We've been doing this the wrong way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so
No, I feel as though again, as I said, the words convey that. You know what I'm saying? We're obviously we're not putting down Christianity. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
we're highlighting the same way people were coming for sinners just to make a reference about yo, it's anti-church, it's anti-God. No, if you
oh,
really
no, it
watch
wasn't.
exactly, if you really watch the movie and you
Yeah,
understood what he was trying to say, it was
yeah,
nothing more than a critique on again the traditions and rituals that we hold dear to our community because we've did and I hate this line, but again, it's just the perfect way to express it because that's all we know and that's all we've done. And
right.
so many of us are so afraid to say, well, let me go outside, let me be different, let me question, let me question the faith. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people, we just, as you know, being a man in the South and the Midwest, myself, which I just call the North of the South.
Right.
It is the north of the. If y'all been to Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, Indiana, it's the north of the South. But people will just, yo, why do you believe what you believe?
Yeah.
That's what grandma did. That's what auntie did. That's what grandpa did. Like that's just what we do. But have you ever questioned? Have you ever had a relationship with God? Have you ever said, yo, like this is what's real to me? You know what I mean? And
Right. Right. Right.
that's what ended up happening to me a year or two ago. But I did want to get into the creative portion because you said something very powerful for the inspiring writers, for the inspiring authors out there. His character transitioned over time. And I think that's a big piece of Gideon. I know the other characters and things like that, but just focusing on Gideon, our POV character, he transitioned over time. He started with again what we usually do as authors. We start with what we have.
Yeah.
Let's create a let's create a Punisher like character. I know he's not that, you know what I'm saying? Or let's
Yeah.
create uh um oh my god, my man's name Spawn. I'm sorry. There we go. Let's create a Spawn type character. Shouts out to Keith David, an amazing actor, amazing voice actor.
Oh
But
yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, again,
He's
but
one
you
of
know
the
what I'm
great
saying?
ones. Yeah.
Yeah. But those characters are authentic and iconic because they were real to the author. The same way that Gideon is authentic and iconic because he's real to brother Walter. You know what I mean? And so that's what I hope you all picked up. And again, y'all can go back and replay this. Of course, it'll be up on YouTube and different podcast forums because gems are like breadcrumbs, and if you pick them up, eventually you'll find your way home. You know what I'm saying? That's just life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, my next question. Now we get into the nitty gritty. I know we're not gonna give nothing away, but I mean, you got way more knowledge than I do. So I guess I'll go first. All right. The question is that I'll answer, that you can answer, is who's your favorite quote unquote good character and who's your, I guess, hero? Okay, there we go. Who's your quote unquote favorite hero out of the
Mhm.
stories and who's your quote unquote favorite villain out of the story? All
Okay.
right. For me, hero, top tier, has to be Gideon without question.
Yeah.
I was like, get like when I was again, I told Brother Walter, I know y'all can't see the private messages and things like that, but I told him when I was, we were going back and forth and getting our first 15 minutes, I was like, yo, this dude, he's dope. Like he just remind, like, yeah. Not so much in again physical features and things like, but his spirit reminds me of my spirit, and I was like, to me, that was so much easier as an actor, to as a voice talent to bring that character to life because it wasn't anything that I was unfamiliar with. It wasn't anything that I felt like out of my depth. You know what I mean? Now, my favorite villain, uh, to that I've read so far that I feel has just stuck with me. I actually like Athelia a whole. I promise you, I
Really?
like
Wow.
Athelia. I like her a lot, and I'll tell you why. Now this is us just nerding out, y'all. I like her a lot because I feel like she's such a shadow, such a subtle character that again you have such big presences in terms of the villain category, and we all know your villains have to be tough. They have to be, almost more powerful than your heroes because, again, what's the point of triumphing over them if they're not, tough and strong and stuff like that? But I like her because she, in my opinion, is I'm not gonna waste time. She's not the twiddle the mustache type of villain. You know what I'm saying? Like she's very when y'all read the books and y'all see her expand over time and things like that. Like she's very much I'm going to get the job done. And then whatever lays there afterwards is what lays there after. Like, that's why I like her. Like, I like
Yeah.
her just because to me, she leaped off the page, as we say in this world. You know what I mean? And even though she, as we know in this industry, she didn't have a big role, she didn't have a lot of lines. She was literally, I mean, her whole, to use movie terminology, TV terminology, her whole screen time was maybe 10 minutes at
Yeah.
best,
Yeah.
maybe
I
10
would say
minutes.
about 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about 10 minutes. But I feel like again, and we've seen this in our movies and series, like one character can explode and become a whole thing within itself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we saw that with for example, Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn was originally supposed to be
Oh,
a
yeah.
one-off character. A lot of people don't know that.
That's right.
Especially if you're younger than us. You definitely don't know that. But like Harley Quinn was supposed to be just a, one-off character for the animated series, not a movie,
That's
not a
right.
video game. Like literally, if you remember growing up like we did in the 90s and 2000s,
Uh-huh.
he came on the Batman animated series on
That's
Kids
right.
WB. Shout out to Kids
I
WB.
used to love Kids WB. Oh my
Oh,
gosh, dude.
yo, Kids
Yeah.
WB on Saturday mornings.
Uh-huh.
You
And
could
then
not.
I think Power Rangers came on right after that.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Now wait a
Yeah.
second. Before you answer, who's your favorite Power Ranger? Who's your favorite Power Ranger?
Black Ranger.
Okay, okay. I
I've always
always
I like the Green Ranger too, but like
okay.
the but Zach, OG Zach is my favorite Power Ranger.
OG Zach. You know what's
Yeah, because he
crazy?
is the battle axe. Is the battle axe.
I love Zach,
Yeah.
but my favorite color is red, and I've always been red. Ever since like me and my homies were playing it back in the day.
Yeah.
I was always red.
Wow.
And then when I saw that his name was Jason, I mean, again, eventually
Yeah.
I was
But,
like, his character. But then Jason David Frank, R.I.P.
mhm.
His real
Yeah.
name is Jason, and I'm like, what? Like you should have just been
It
Jason.
should
Like,
have been Jason. Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
you could have called Tommy Tommy and just called you Jason. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I've always been a red, and I say that because I've always been attracted, but gravitated towards the leader. You know what I'm saying? Like whoever the leader is, like I've always been that person to be like, all right, I'm gonna take it on my shoulder. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get the goal. So that's been me. So I shoot it back to you. Your favorite hero and your favorite villain, quote unquote.
My favorite hero is Gideon, the Watcher. Not just because he's the flagship hero of the series, but
Mm,
because like so much of his story is my story, and it's almost like he's a living person to me. I know that sounds really weird, but
Mm-hmm.
but he's almost like, like almost like an older brother or something. And I really, 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 uh, I mean, put so much of myself into
Mm-hmm.
his character, and so I love him. I love how he is extremely powerful, but has an extreme amount of restraint when it's needed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
And I love his resiliency because if you're reading Gideon or reading his story or reading The Watcher, you really see how resilient this man is.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
those are all things that like I really really love about him. So he's my favorite. Um, and then as far as villains, the Wolf is actually my favorite villain.
He was number two for me. He was number
Yeah,
two. I got you, but
the re-
I know why. But go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. So the reason why the wolf is my favorite out of like the list of them villains that I've created is because um he he has the potential to be good. He
Mm-hmm.
or he had
Mm-hmm.
and it's like he chose the dark side, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Like
Oh
his story is tragic, and he has a lot of like uh, mommy and daddy wounds and stuff like that. But it's he's like the exact opposite of Gideon,
yeah.
and it really shows in his actions, and it shows in his war against the Most High. And so he's my favorite because he's such a broken character that could have had a redemption arc, but
Mm-hmm.
we don't know that he'll ever have one because he seems to be on this collision course with like destruction.
Yeah.
And so that's why he's my favorite villain. And that's we're talking about Pharaoh and Moloch,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
some pretty big heavy hitters here,
Yeah.
but he's
Yeah.
probably my favorite one. So
Yeah. No, I know. Just again, because I love to give y'all a little behind the scenes or whatever. I know when I was voicing the wolf and when I was voicing Pharaoh, I definitely knew they needed very distinct voices because I
yeah,
was like, these are very pivotal, important characters who I feel will show up again somewhere. But I'm like, I'm like, just even if they don't, I know like if you know how you're reading something or you're watching something, and you want people for our industry and what we do, you want people to be immersed in the experience for however long it is.
yeah,
Whether it's
yeah.
an hour, 2 hour. I mean, again, you've seen it. Some people I just saw today, like somebody has like a 12-hour book. You know what I'm saying? Like, so can you
Gosh.
imagine like 12 hours of and then the dog said hi. You know what I'm saying? Or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like again, like that's worse than AI in my opinion.
Oh
But
yeah, for sure.
uh one thing I always try and do is and my wife laughs at me sometimes. Like I'll literally again, I take this very me and brother Walter take this very seriously, but from the actor perspective, like I'll walk around voicing the character, like I'll say things in the character's voice, like I'll try and move like the character, whatever, because I'm like, I have to embody this person, thing, or being, whatever it is. And if it doesn't sound natural when I'm in the booth, then somebody else will get out of the experience. And that's not fair to them. That's not fair to the author. That's not author. That's not fair to myself as an actor. Because again, we're constantly growing, we're constantly getting better. But if your talent and skill level is at the place where you can deliver something that again is distinguished and different, then I would definitely say do that. Because when you guys listen to both books, and I hope this is the case, I'm not just saying it to hype myself up or anything like that, but I hope you all see the distinction between the Pharaoh and the wolf in terms of voice. You know what I'm saying? In terms of, oh, I know who this person is and I know who that person is, because to me that's such an important thing. Because I like, again, I like, obviously I like my own voice. I didn't for a long time, but we can get into the when brother Walter interviews me, we can do that one. like like what? Like, believe it or not, no, believe it or not, I didn't, but I came obviously through this process, through the years, to enjoy my voice, to enjoy, hey, this voice is yours, but it can be loving, it can be warmth, it can be something that now uh my family just they just want to hear, like literally my wife, even before I mean, we were talking about in 2014, y'all, when me and her started kicking it. So we've been in this thing for a minute.
Wow.
Yeah, long time, brother, long time. Just one thing that she said was, I just love to hear you talk. And little did I know, 10 years down the road, I'd be doing this, but she just always loved to hear me talk. Like that was just her favorite thing. Like she just loved it. And at that time, I was far more introverted. I was far more inclusive, reclusive, I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? I was just, in my shell because that's just that was the story in the framework of what I told myself that Jason was. And I know you guys see, that's a good segue. I know you guys see Senna on here. That is the name of my wife, but she has the better Zoom account. So I promise I'm not Senna. I'm not tricking you guys like you're not Senna. I'm not Senna. Just this is the best Zoom account we have.
Hey, it happens.
It happens. But as I was saying, y'all, now seriously, it I hope you all see the craftsmanship that puts that was put into this piece. Because it's not just, and I think this is the part that anybody who's in here knows, it's not just the performing, because again, you can read these aren't very long reads, but you can read the book, perform the book, I should say. You should perform the book let's just say I give myself, and I told brother Walter this, and it's very true, y'all. Like I finished the second book in one day, but that was because I was so excited. I was so into the story, but the editing process.
Right.
Oh my gosh! The edit for to and I do say this now. This I do put myself on a pedestal for the editing process to get the final quality and sound, because it's not just okay. I've done the book. Here it is. No, it's what's the tone, what's the pacing, what's the breaths, what's the delivery that you're trying to do, and again, when you guys hear it, you'll see, at least those who are in the know will see, oh, he sped it up here, or he slowed it down here, or this character needed more umph or something like that. You see what I'm saying?
Right,
So
right, right, right.
that's the type of quality for those who want to get into the voice acting side. I think that's very important to keep in mind. So
Yeah.
moving right along. Um, where do you feel you do your best writing at? Or what time do you feel like you do your best writing?
Ironically, I do my best writing like late at night.
Okay.
Um, so for instance, last night, uh, I got off work, at 6. Um, and I do try to observe the Sabbath. So like I got off work, and I just took a walk around the park
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of decompress and then get to get some steps in. And
Got to get your 10.
yeah, I was I was listening to the Bible on audio on my phone. I had my earphones in, earplugs in, and I landed on a passage. It was being read, but it's a passage that I've read multiple times. I've written blog posts about it and stuff like that. And when I heard it again, for some reason, last night it stuck differently. And long story short, by the time I got home from walking, I took my shower. I revisited the passage in the scriptures, and I made some notes. Long story short, last night I ended up creating a new villain to go along, in the like pantheon of villains, Watcher villains,
Mm-hmm.
and laid out the character's history and everything just like at 10:30 last night. It was all there, and so I've got it put into Word. It's all set, and this villain will actually appear in the next book that you're getting ready to do.
Okay.
And so yeah, I do it late at night. Sometimes it's ironically sometimes it's even when I'm um just really stressed out or really just dealing with stuff. I shared with you what's going on in my personal
Mm-hmm.
life,
Mm-hmm.
and the Watcher Rise of Gideon was actually completed as stuff really started to escalate with that situation that I'm having, and the Holy Spirit, which I know this sounds cliche, but the Holy Spirit really helped me to really to finish that process because there were some days where I wanted to give up and not do
Mm-hmm.
it. I was like, what's the point?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I had some days where I just absolutely wanted to just kind of curl up and die. But Holy Spirit pushed me towards finishing it. Um, and honestly, um, writing that novella and finishing it through such a heightened time really kind of kept me um, focused and away from falling back into bad habits and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a blessing. So I do my best writing late at night or during stressful times. It's I know it sounds weird, but I can really hear God speak to me in those moments,
Yeah.
and that's when I get the most downloads. The other time, the last I'll say this, I don't want to get too winded, but also when I'm
Mm-hmm.
fasting, when I
Mm-hmm.
come off a fast or when I'm in the middle of a fast, I get some really good downloads as well.
Okay.
So those are the times where I get my best writing done. I almost like, and I don't want to be arrogant. I don't want to you know insert myself, but I almost feel like David a lot of times because when you look at the life of David, you know, his a lot of his worship and a lot of his psalms, his
Mm-hmm.
what we know now, came from places of distress, stress, worry, abandonment,
Mm-hmm.
uh, not knowing where his next meal and stuff was going to come from.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when I produce what you just read, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
it's times like that, and then and then late at night, when I'm in my thoughts, in the Psalms, there are several Psalms where David is up. He can't sleep. He's
Mm-hmm.
writing Psalms, and so I I really I would say in regard to him in that way, I would definitely say I'm a lot like him in that way.
Yeah. No, that's dope. I asked that because again, I think sometimes especially if you're like me and you're a YouTube researcher.
Yeah,
You got your PhD in research,
yeah,
YouTube researcher. Um, they'll tell you, yo, you got to set a block time to write, and you got to do it for this amount of day. And it is good to build the habit, especially when I think
yeah,
you're just starting out. Because you have to, and I think people don't necessarily think you're a writer until you've either had something published, turned into a film or series, or again, you're just like J.R.R. Tolkien or
right, right.
what's our girl from Harry Potter?
Oh, J.K.
I
Rowling.
knew it was J.K. something. Okay,
Yeah,
the JKs, man, those British, they just come with the JKs, don't they? Um, but no, people don't necessarily feel like, oh, you've done anything in this space. And this is where I go back to the path of a creator isn't always the instant, boom, I dropped it, somebody liked the right person got in front of it. No, it we pray that it happens that way. We pray that the right person comes along, sees, as I said, the love, the authenticity, the realness that your work produces or can, produce and be turned into whatever. You know what I mean? But a lot of times it is the slow grind. As we say in video games, you grinding, you grinding to get to that next level. You
Right.
grind to get to that next achievement. You know what I mean? So that's dope. That's dope. I like that. I like that. All right, next question. What keeps you writing? Because again, as you spoke about, you won't always have struggle. We know that. You know what I mean? So that won't necessarily always be a catalyst, but you know what keeps you, saying, yo, I gotta keep producing, I gotta keep getting these characters out here, I gotta keep producing these novellas, these books, these series.
Honestly, there's been so many times, even recently, where I've wanted to give up. I um, was journaling about a month ago, um, and I was just like, I'm just going to put the Watcher to bed. I've done what I can do with him. He hasn't caught on.
Mm,
Nobody really values the character. And then you and I connected over the audiobook creation exchange, and some of the words that you used just really breathed life into me. I was in a really bad situation. It's
mm,
still not over just yet.
mm,
Um, but I just, with everything that was going on in my personal life and everything, I was just like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore.
mm,
Um, Prior to that, you know, it, money was always the issue, because it takes roughly, it's about $1,500 to put out an 8-page comic book.
mm. Okay.
And so a lot of people don't know that. And so it's a lot of money. Of course, comic books they're not expensive. A lot of them are usually less than $10. Some of them are less than $7. And so unless you're doing like a graphic novel,
Mm-hmm.
you don't really make much on them. So you really have to really love the characters that you're writing and everything. And money was just always an issue. Several years ago, somebody said, hey, what if you took the writing from your comics and, expand on those writings and make them into like a novella? And I hadn't previously thought about it, but in light of everything that I've been going through lately, I was like, okay, let me try this. This might be the way to go. And so essentially, um, the two novellas that you read are really the first 6 or 7 issues of The Watcher,
Okay.
but naturally expanded. So
Yeah.
I had to create some characters like Uncle Nate and so on and so forth. But that's what that is, and ultimately, what keeps me writing is excuse me. It's when I know that um, the work that God has given me is making an impact, because I don't know you, Jason, and you don't know me,
Yeah.
but like you felt led to really say those words that you said. And I mean, I don't feel like those were fake. I don't feel like, I feel like those were, that's your real thoughts about the series and about the books. And so
Yeah.
when you said those things, it was almost like the Holy Spirit, kind of like put his hand on my shoulder and said, good job.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, that's what keeps me going. It's like if I could show just one person, the power of God, if I could show one person that, their story is 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 powerful. If I could show, just one person that, the things that are going on in the world that may not make the most sense,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
actually do make sense and actually are connected in ways that maybe we never thought of. then I feel like the Watcher is doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No.
so I've noticed with several, comics and series, you might have some writers that touch on certain things or some that hint at certain things, but it's like you don't find very many that really do like a deep expose into the horrors that are
Yeah.
happening, um, and so I mean, I think the Watcher is great because it provides that outlet and it gives voice to so many people that otherwise wouldn't have it, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I think because again, we can talk from behind the scene. I know when I was reading the second novella, I was like, oh, this real. This again, and y'all know how we do when the black person say this real. Oh, it's very real. But I liked it because, as you said, Netflix did a very powerful thing back in 2016 with Luke Cage, and especially
Yep.
with the Punisher series. They
Yeah.
made it very grounded, very real,
Yeah.
very authentic, and that's what I felt, as I said, and I'll keep reiterating it. When I was reading the first two novellas, I'm sure the other ones will be just as powerful, just the same version. But when I was reading it, I thought about, again, I was born and raised in a very melanated city. You know what I'm saying? And I thought about, as you said, when you brought it up, the statistics and the numbers of all the different stories that go unheard. You know what I'm saying? Like some of us, who myself included, enjoy like cold cases and NCIS and things like that. And they'll get a case or two like that or whatever, but it's very, very hush hush. You don't hear about it. You don't talk about it. We like to harp on some stories because we know it'll get the ratings and the views and things like that. But the real stories that matter, the people that are truly need voices. You know what I'm saying? Stories like this matter. So I again, I tip my hat. If I had a hat, I mean, I do have a hat, but it's it's not important. What is interesting though is, and I'll give people a little background about this. When I was auditioning for, because again, you do have to audition, if y'all like, just giving y'all some background, for certain stories, and well, all stories, but you do have to audition. Um, when I was auditioning for this story, I didn't think I was going to get it. And the reason, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why.
Wow.
The reason I didn't think I was going to get the story, because in the description, as some of you authors will know, some of you voice actors will know, it says Black African American, right? Now, clearly, I know I'm Black and African American. However, I know my voice doesn't always come off as Black African American. So I didn't know what type of, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know what type of tone you wanted this character to have. And especially when I was reading over it and I was reading the audition, I was like, okay, Memphis, like I've been to like, and again, and it helps, as I told Brother Walter in some of our messages, it helps if you've actually been to the place. Like, you don't necessarily have to, but it does help.
Yeah.
Like if you, and again, as I told him, or maybe I told him, but we just talk so much. Um, my people, and here comes the accent. This is real, y'all. When I get comfortable, it's very, y'all gonna hear it. All right. So my people, right? My people, we come from Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina. So that's where my peoples come from, right? At least in this country, right? That's our origin story, right?
Yeah.
So when I was thinking about this story, I was like, well, and I don't know if I did an audition or not, but I was like, if I get this, I definitely want to tap into my roots, tap into the Southern uh, hospitality, the Southern comforts that we all grew up on. Like we grew up on mac and cheese and dressing. I know some of y'all call it stuffing, but we call it dressing up here in the North. Um, fried chicken, all these different things that, again, sometimes have been stigmatized in the, you know, I won't call it main culture or anything like that, but society at large. But in our community, they mean more than words. You know what I'm saying? They're priceless. It's priceless to have a Sunday dinner even if it's once a quarter, even if it's once a year, just having that moment where everybody comes together at Granny's. I mean, again, we called her so many different names, but I think the best one was Big Baby. We called her Big Baby. So if we all just came to Big Baby's house, you know what I'm saying, and we was all there, and it was such a joyous time, because what I came to realize over time is that, again, you only have your perspective that you grow up with, right? And so I assume that everybody grew up like I did. You know what I'm saying? Like they grew up with Sunday dinners and home cooked meals and all these different things. And then I got out into high school and I got out into college and I got to university and I was like, oh, this ain't the norm. Everybody don't do this. You know what I mean? And so it made me treasure it that much more to have those moments and those experiences. And of course, uh, we try and foster that as much as we can now with our babies, with our families, extended and nuclear as well. Just like, yo, no, we got to go talk to auntie, and no, we got to go talk to cousin, and no, they're not really your cousin, but they're your cousin, and no, it's not really your uncle, but it's your uncle. You know what I'm saying? Like you just it's
Yeah.
it's it's that type of significance. So that's why when I initially thought, I was like, man, I'm like, I don't know if he gonna get it, because again, as you know, as a brother, and we've all worked jobs and different things like that. Like we got a code switch sometimes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And we have to change our vernacular, and we don't necessarily get to speak with ain'ts and bees and gones and fintas and all of this and things like that. So I
Yeah.
was like, I don't really know what he wants. Like I can only deliver my voice, and if he feels like my voice is the right voice, then I promise you, and I tell Brother Walter this, I give him his crown, because again, I think flowers are for the ladies, but I give homies the crowns. So no, I give him his crown as a king, not just by ancestry, but just because of what he's doing. Um, Thank you again. Thank you for giving me this shot, this opportunity, because to give y'all a brief backstory, um, I hadn't been working until Brother Walter. Uh, I hadn't been working because me and my wife, we were in California, and we were she was pregnant. Well, again, he's here now, but she was pregnant with our son, and we weren't near family, so we came all the way across the country to Michigan, and as I told Brother Walter very briefly, um, I was doing real estate at the time. You know what I'm saying? So again, I should have sold more houses. I don't know why people didn't like the voice, but that's not the point. I was in commercial and residential, but
Yeah.
no, California, y'all weird. But anyway, I love Cali. I do. We was there for 6 and 7 years. But I wasn't working. I wasn't working because my oh man, to get into the technical side of it very briefly, the noise floor kept being too loud. My mic was the wrong mic. The space I had wasn't set up for audio recording, and it was just as Brother Walter said. I was frustrated. I was defeated because
Yeah.
as a man, for now we just having real talk, y'all. As a man, I was like, I can't provide for my family, y'all.
Yeah. I know.
I can't provide for these children that I'm helped create. And it brought back so many memories from my life of, how I wished, as Brother Walter spoke about earlier in the conversation, what my dad had done for me and what I said I would never do to my children or my spouse or anything like that. So it was a very um it was a trial. It really was. It was as the word says, I was walking through the valley of the shadow of death. You know what I'm saying? And
I believe it.
yeah, it really was. And because I told myself, I know I can do this. I know if I get the proper equipment, if I get in the proper space, if I get the proper time, I know I can do this. And I know that whatever title, whatever book, whoever I links up with, I'm gonna give him, I'm gonna give him Jason. You know what I'm saying? Because I know that Jason can I can deliver accents, I can deliver voices, I can deliver both. You know what I'm saying? Like again,
Yeah.
just loving myself. Like I know I can deliver
Yeah.
to their project. And so again, as I said, I give Brother Walter his crown because he noticed something in my audition that at the time I was really riding on a shoestring and a prayer that something would happen because I believe I did uh 20, I probably did like 22 auditions before I got to Brother Walter. And
Wow.
22 auditions. And again, that's just a testament to the work, the grind, the grit, you know what I'm saying? But I was just like, yo, this and again, this is the power of writing, y'all. Just letting y'all know. I was like, this sounds interesting. Number one. It sounds like something I'm familiar with because again, I love studying art history across the diaspora. So America, Caribbean, Africa, anywhere. You know what I'm saying? UK, it doesn't matter. China, doesn't matter. I love studying art history and seeing what our people have done. But when I read it, I was like, yo, this sounds pretty good. So I'm auditioning. So that's the story how we linked up, y'all. Like, and then, like Brother Walter said, this wasn't like we didn't know each other from Blue. Like we didn't, our mamas ain't know each other. Like none of that. Like it's just literally um the vibe, the spirit, the Holy Spirit. Let's just call it what it is.
Pretty much.
You know what I'm saying? The Holy Spirit knew that y'all two need to link together and make this happen. So again, that's the story behind that.
Man, man, wow.
I didn't think I was gonna get it. I literally told my wife, I was like, again, I have and I hate to put it this way, I have a black voice, but it just doesn't come out unless, that's what the author or the person needs. You know what I'm saying? Like it'll come out with, again, when we're amongst friends and family, but again, this is my natural speaking, articulation, tone, and everything like that. So
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Seriously, I'm the same way.
exactly. So it's like people again, like I just again and I base it off past experience. You know what I'm saying? Like people again, this is what people say, and I'm like, yeah, but I still I'm still black, y'all. I'm like, are you sure? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I
Like
know.
like, I'm
I hate when they do that.
yeah, like are you sure? Like literally, and again, y'all, we just vibe, and I'm gonna get back to the questions. I promise. Like growing up, like I've always been a light, bright. Some people say I'm light, some people not. You know how our community do be like, oh, you light skin, you're not light skin, whatever. But again, y'all go back and look at my pictures when I was a baby. I was a much a younger person, not a baby, but baby too. But I was a lot lighter. And I remember one time, me and my two older cousins, well, two of my older cousins, they're not just my older cousins, but two of them. We were literally around the house, around the corner from our house growing up, and the police pulled us over, right? And so I'm 8. My oldest cousin is like maybe 16. He just got his license and something. My other cousin, he's like 14 or whatever. They're in the front seat. I'm in the back seat. Police pull us over and they go through the regular rhetoric and everything, but they address me. Now, I had never, spoken to the police. I'm like I said, I'm like 8, 9 years old. Like, so the only
Yeah,
reference I have for the police is TV. You know what I mean? Like if that, like I just have never had an encounter. You know what I'm saying? Things like this. Growing up in Detroit, we were, and I'm thankful for this, but we were very sheltered. We were very, we knew of what was going on outside, but we were not outside, and partly because we just weren't allowed outside like that. Like we went to the park and stuff. You know what I'm saying? But it's just we had a very old school kind of concept growing up of, the street lights come on, you come on. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Now, again,
same.
I was a nerd. I've always been a nerd or a blurred, as we're affectionately called now.
Yep.
But back in the day, they didn't call us that. So I watched video. I mean, I played video games and watched TV. Like that was my thing. So if I did go outside, it was extremely rare.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And plus, growing up in Michigan, like growing up in Detroit, like it's cold 9 months out the year, y'all. So it's not a lot of outside activities that you go to. Like it just doesn't exist. In the as they say on Game of Thrones, in the land of the North. Like it just doesn't
Uh-huh.
it just doesn't exist. So to finish the story. So they pulled us over and they were specifically looking at me and talking to me. And again, I've always had, they're better now. Obviously, I've gotten better, but I've always had Charmin soft feelings. So the moment somebody, is like being direct with me and, all in my face and stuff like this, like I'm back there crying. So the police took that as an indication of because they were looking for a kid that got kidnapped by
Oh,
two brothers. Apparently, they were looking for a kid who got kidnapped.
yeah.
And again, fit the description. Blah blah blah. This was not obviously knowledge to us, but as I said, I was much lighter, so they thought I was a child of a interracial relationship, right? So they're like, oh, this like, this little white boy is here, with these two Negroes, probably. And again, this is so, wow, Holy Spirit. They probably thought I was being trafficked, which I didn't, you know what
Probably.
I'm saying? Like, I didn't even know what it was at the time, but they're like, oh, these guys are probably trafficking him. But I promised, like, I could only say a few words because I was just such in shock. Like I had never had that experience, but I could only say a few words. And I was like, they asked me, they're like, do you know these people? I'm like, yes. They're like, how do you know them? I'm like, these are my cousins. These are my brothers. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm an only child by the union of my mother and father. But again, my cousins are my brothers, my sisters and stuff like that. So that's how we grew up. But I was like, no, these are these are my cousins. And they were kind of meddling on it and things like that. And my cousin was like, yeah, like this, this is true. Like this is him. Like we literally around the corner or whatever. And I just bust out crying because I was like, did I do something wrong? You know what I'm saying? Things like this. And they're like, no, no, no. Like we believe you or whatever. But I thought I got my cousins in trouble. And I didn't know I was just being a light skinned little kid. I didn't know. So, when I got home, my mom was like, why is he crying? Why is he crying? And it's like, and they told her the whole story. She had to tell me and sit me down and be like, baby, it's okay. Like your cousins are okay, things like this or whatever. And I think I probably got some White Castle that day or something because I was like, food is food makes us happy. So food definitely made me happy. And I was like, okay, you know what I'm saying? But that was the experience. Yeah, that was the experience.
Man.
Yeah, that was the experience. Um,
Man.
I know we gotta let that sit for like two. Just let it sit. I promise.
Uh,
Oh man. All right. Now let's get into it. Let's get into it. All right. We got a few more questions, y'all. I know we've been here. I know y'all been rocking with us, and we appreciate it. But this is literally our first time linking up, and I knew it would happen like this. So I'm glad it's happening like this. We keep everything organic,
yeah.
everything natural, everything real. You know what I'm saying? This is why I got the big Zoom account because I knew this wasn't gonna be no hour interview, things like it's just too much power on this call. So I was like, nah, ain't no way. Um, what okay, so you have the comic books and
Mhm.
you created the novellas. What made you want to, because not everybody does, but what made you want to transition to, well, this could be an audio version? What made
Yeah.
you take that decision?
Well, it was kind of a couple things. So you know what's going on with me in my personal life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Uh, Last year, around the first part of November, I had to take a 1,000 mile trip in a U-Haul,
okay.
and I had my iPhone, and I had a lot of time, like 14 hours of driving, and naturally, I have Spotify, Apple Music, stuff like that, and
Mm-hmm,
I I forget if I don't know if I saw like a commercial or if I got like an email, but there was something about like Audible. I think it was an email, and I was like Audible, and so they were like, "Well, it's an Amazon company, blah 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 blah
mm-hmm,
blah,"
mm-hmm,
and so I was. They asked me like what my interests were, and I mentioned like sci-fi, history, theology, so on and so forth, and it actually opened up several like Marvel comics audiobooks. Now, I didn't see any for like any of the black characters from Marvel, but like there was like Venom, Spider-Man,
mm-hmm.
Jessica Jones, the X-Men.
Yep, yep.
And so I started listening to I think it was the X-Men one, yeah.
Okay.
And I was actually surprised. It was like a movie for the mind. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, because I'm driving and I'm listening, and even though I don't see anything, like the visual is forming in my mind as I'm listening, and so it's almost like I'm watching TV, as weird as that sounds. And I was like, I bet I could do. I was like, I bet we could probably do something like this for The Watcher, because I was like, it's The Watcher is cinematic on its own,
Hmm. Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I should try to look into this. And honestly, I didn't think I had the money to do it because, like, I didn't know, I in some cases you do have to, pay a large amount to get somebody to, and I knew that because of my situation, I was working with limited funds, and I just was like, it's a long shot, but I'll try it. So after I kind of got settled to where I was going, I got on, and I saw where you can, basically upload or create your own audiobook. I had the same situation as you. I speak this way, and even though I would love to voice my own characters, I just didn't think that my voice would, do the part justice.
Hmm.
And I saw where there was a place where you could find somebody that would, narrate the book or narrate your books. And so I just, on a whim, I uploaded the manuscript and, wrote what I was looking for. I knew I wanted an urban sounding voice, a black sounding voice, because I know that, my character is most like Black Panther, Luke Cage, Blade,
Hmm.
Falcon, characters like that. And so I knew I needed, a voice that would really um, relay what how the
Had those
characters.
shared experiences. That's
Yeah.
yep.
And honestly, when I uploaded it, I got probably like 10 or 12 auditions. Um, a lot of them were like they didn't have the African American voice, and they almost sounded like boomers. And I
Hmm.
think I think that they may have been older comic book fans, just kind of based on how they said certain words and just everything.
Hmm.
There was one actor or narrator who was interested in doing it, but he was so um, like matter of fact and direct. He was like, he's like, I know that this character is probably going to make you a lot of money someday. I'll do this for you, but I need $500 up front and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I don't have that. Like, I have like some major stuff going on right now
Right.
in my life. I'm just trying to figure out even just my living situation.
Mm.
I was like, is there any way that you could take the job and, like, maybe I could pay you later or something like that? And
Mhm.
he was like, I'll think about it and get back to you. So it was like maybe like 3 days had gone by. And 3 days later, he was like, I don't want to do it. He's like, if I can't have money up front, I don't want to do it. So I
Mm.
was really crushed. I was actually thinking about withdrawing the book,
Wow.
and
Wow.
something told me to stop. And then, like, right after that, like, I got your audition, and it was like perfect. And that's what was going on my end, like with the whole
Wow.
thing.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's great. And I'll tell people it's usually always one or two between like authors,
yeah,
but again, like when you're writing, you know what I'm saying? We can touch on that. You kind of know the voice if you're going to turn into an audiobook, like you know the voice that you kind of want to
yeah.
present your book. You know what I mean? Because they're for let's just take an example, like Miss Rachel couldn't deliver this book. You know what I mean? Like it would be
No,
extremely hard
no,
for her to do this book, or
yeah,
even a Kevin Hart. Like Kevin could like his voice just doesn't fit. this world, even though he has the notoriety and the fame and the melanin and the story. Like again, he checks
Yeah.
the boxes except the
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
can you imagine even do
Yeah.
like
I
I'm not
don't,
even gonna do a line, but like Kevin's voice was like
I don't know that he could do any of the characters except maybe the collard green man, maybe. But like, I don't.
no, you know, and I'll speak on why I might understand why he did the 500 up front. As he did say,
Yeah.
this and that is one of the questions that I'll ask next. These characters, this work does have the potential to expand into something big, y'all. I mean, in the next, who knows? You know what I'm saying? Long term, 10 years, short term, 5 years. This could definitely be something that you all are looking at on Netflix or in theaters or on a series or something like that. Like I believe that in my whole heart and soul. Me and Brother Walter, I prayed about it, talked about it multiple times. Um, but I know on our end as voice actors, sometimes when you, I know some voice actors who don't even do royalty shares, like they won't even do it because it's like, I, you have to wait longer, even though you do get it, you know, over the life of the book and everything like that. But it's like, you don't, a lot of people don't know marketing. So they're like, I don't want to go through the marketing of, you know, having
Oh,
to keep telling people about this book, having to keep telling people about this book, because it's kind of like, for those who are in sales, just briefly to touch on business, you have to constantly keep reiterating yourself. You have to constantly keep telling people, "Hey, this is who I am. This is who I am. This is who I am." Because for those who are in on my side, you know, you if you're not most, we don't. Let's put it this way: greatness from small beginnings, right?
right.
But in order to become Christopher Judge, Keith David, TC Carson, you know what I'm saying? Like in order to become these people, right, you have to have a body of work. You know what I'm saying? You have to have an
Right.
extensive repertoire of, you know, hey, I've done this book, I've done this character, I've done this show, I've done, you know, things of that nature so people can look over and say, you're
Right.
worth the price that you're worth. For example, and I'll tell people right now, um, on my profile, I've updated it and made it the way that it is because it ties into this perfectly. I uploaded some samples. Well, I've uploaded 30 samples. So if any author is out there and y'all want to listen to it, as long as I'm not doing a Brother Walter project, you know what I'm saying? No, that's serious. Y'all can holler at me. But I uploaded those samples to show people, hey, I may be in the quote unquote space for only 2 years, but I have mastered this craft. You know what I'm saying? Not again, not that I won't keep learning, not that I won't keep expanding, but I know what my worth is. I know how much you should charge, and I know, and I'll keep saying it because if you know, you know, I know how long editing takes.
Oh
I
yeah.
I literally I told Brother Walter before we did this, and my wife has just been laughing at me because I have been editing this longest book to date. It's a fantasy book. Um, but it's probably been like a month of just editing because yeah, and the reason is, and I'll give y'all the background behind this book because I recorded. So I'm usually, if I get a project and I usually like the project, which I do, you know what I'm saying, most times, um, I'll record it shortest time, obviously a day, longest time a week, right? So that's just the performance, reading the book, everything like that, right? Going through the chapters. However, the editing process, my shortest editing process, because I'm doing it myself. Like I don't have an engineer. Like I do have somebody who I'm interviewing to say, hey, you know, can you clean these up for me? Because again, that's what takes the longest part.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't have that at the moment. So I'm doing all the editing, right? And so the reason I had to go back and do this was because she heard the first 15 minutes and she liked again the performance, the delivery. There was nothing wrong with that. However, as you know, with sometimes in fantasy books, you have like, you know, I'll just call them Lord of the Rings type names of cities and people and stuff like that.
Right.
And
Right.
so she wanted the pronunciation of these things the way that she had it in her head. You know what I mean? And so I'm like,
Yeah.
what you want? this is really what you want. Now, again, this is a note to myself because again, I had never I'd never done a fantasy book up until that time. And the one I won't say never, but the one I did do, there weren't a lot of complicated names and things like that, and so on and so forth. So note to myself and note to the other voice actors out there, if you get a fantasy project, if you get a fantasy offer, right, please ask the author, how, and you've read through the manuscript because that's important, you should definitely do that. How do you want these names pronounced? How do you want the names, the cities, the gods, goddesses, like how do you want them pronounced? Because it will save you a ton of time in editing and post production, because you'll just say, okay, I did this, I did that. And maybe even what I would say, if it's not in the first 15 minutes, like add that to the first 15-minute sample so that they can say, hey, this is how I'm going to pronounce this. Do you like this? To give to give the people one more example. For example, in the second book that's coming out, you guys, you'll hear Brother Walter put the name of one of the characters who unfortunately passed away in the story, but I was pronouncing it one way, like, and then I'll tell people my process of how I do it because one of the fans asked this question. He was like, how do you get into the mold for these characters and these voices and things like that? And I told him it's genuinely very natural. Like everything I do is very, very natural. It's not very methodized. Um, but it's very like I'll say it a couple times. For example, I'll say the name, I'll say the name, I'll say the name. And if it sounds natural when I deliver it, then that's what I'll go with. Even though I know I'll have to go back and re-edit those out later for consistency.
Yeah.
But example, that's what happened with the second novella that I gave to Brother Walter, because I was like, I just want this to sound consistent and authentic all the way through. Because again, I try and put, as I think every author and every voice actor should, put yourself in the shoes of those who will be listening to this project. You know what I mean? Because if you do that, I feel like you'll have a better experience and say, if I wasn't doing what I do, would they really enjoy this? Because again, to go a little bit further, I know that one person's pronunciation of something can be very different than somebody else's pronunciation of something. But in terms of this uh, uh, framework and industry, I feel like consistency just matters a little bit more. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what I'll say to that. All right, we getting there.
Mhm.
Are there any words of wisdom for aspiring authors who want to get into this style of genre in book
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
comics, I should say?
Um, yeah. Well, I just want to say that the um, the genre and just self-publishing, especially if you're leaning towards comic book adaptations, um, it's a little oversaturated right now. What's happened is that Netflix um, essentially um, made, I guess, since 2017, they've made several superhero show movies,
Mm-hmm.
series, limited series, stuff like that. And so a lot of the stuff that Netflix had put out had actually been from independent comic books. And so there was like a surge of that for probably like the first 5, 6, maybe 7 years, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of tapered off like during COVID, and then now it's kind of picked back up again. And so a lot a lot of the industry is really oversaturated. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't tell your story.
Mm-hmm.
I would still encourage you to still tell your story, still be consistent about the writing, and even just like your online footprint in terms of like how you want to build your online audience and fans and stuff like that. Because um, you might feel like your story is like obscure, or that the competition is too deep or steep or whatever. But um, just because the market is oversaturated, it doesn't mean that your story will be necessarily overlooked. or that your story isn't unique enough to capture the attention of somebody. And so I would just say, as a word of advice, don't go into it with small dreams or small expectations, but also don't get discouraged if things don't happen right away. Because keep in mind, I've been writing since 2009,
Mm,
and we're in 2026 now, and
yeah,
now it's just starting to kind of catch on in terms of interest about the series, the property, and so I would just say prepare for the long haul. But as long as you love what you're doing, like it won't seem as long as it is sometimes, if that makes sense.
yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. Now, can you just again, just to help the writers out there, can you touch on intellectual property and copyright really quickly? Just, so
Yeah,
that people can know how that
absolutely.
works in our world, because I feel like I know, again, like I said, y'all, I can talk to Brother Walter from a voice actor perspective, from an author perspective. I know there's the moment you write it down, that's your copyright, but can you expand a little bit more on just, you
So,
know, keeping your characters, keeping your property your property?
absolutely. So yes, you are right. There is, I think it's called like a poor man's copyright. It's where you write
Mm-hmm.
something down, and it is, if you can back it up digitally and show the digital footprint that you wrote or whatever, it is yours. There are some people that actually go as far as mailing their own stuff to themselves. That's another way. But I would encourage every writer and creator to actually go through and get the copyright. Go through and get a copyright. Now, I did it through. Initially, I tried to do it through the Library of Congress, and
Mm-hmm. Yep, I did
for
the
the
same
life
thing.
of me,
Yep.
I kind of struggled with it. They had kind of kicked it back a couple times, and then finally, I broke down. That's the cheapest way is to go directly through them online and to do it. I struggled with getting that to happen, so I went through LegalZoom, and with LegalZoom, I think I paid right around $150.
Okay.
But they got me the copyright. I've got the official copyright. Of course, you can also trademark. Trademark is where your logo or the image of your person, your character, I should say, is trademarked, meaning nobody can use those either. And so that is a little bit more. That's you're looking at like $300 to $500 for something like that. But you can also do it through LegalZoom. It is pricey, but I would definitely recommend it just because it gives you that peace of mind that if somebody were to try to make a play to steal your character or characters or your series, you have that legal footing to fight back and to win, quite frankly, should anything happen. During the first couple of years, see, I published the first Watcher comic in 2020, August of 2020.
Wow.
And by February of 2021, there were people on Instagram that had like followed me and that had tried to create characters like that looked similar in name, appearance, and everything. And I had to actually go on and do a live and show the copyright, show the trademark, and say, like, look, I'm
Wow.
not
Yeah.
trying to start a thing, but like, I will pursue legal means if you keep doing this. Please stop. Like, this is a character that's taking years to develop. I realize, I
Yeah. He's,
realize,
he's dope. He's dope. I get it. Like
yeah.
he's dope. Yeah. You
And
understand?
so I was like, if you want, I was like, I'll help you create a character. I'll help you
Yeah.
write a character. But I was like, please leave this character alone. There's
Yeah.
there's too much to him. Like, and so I did that, and it did stop. And so I say it to say, just yeah, especially with the way that social media is and everything, like it definitely helps to get those ducks in a row.
Yeah.
And so price wise, I would say if you could set aside like 700 to $1,000 to get your copyright and your trademark, it'd be worth it because you would have that peace of mind that nobody can take the character from you. And so, you know, it's a good feeling, and then it also protects you too. I believe if you are ever approached about turning the property or the story into something for television or film or even digital with YouTube or whatever, you have that to say like, hey, this character is all mine. Whatever you decide to do with it, you've got to um,
You got to run it. Yeah.
the money has to match it because it's my character. It'll never be Netflix's
Right.
unless I explicitly
Right.
sell it to, and so all those things help you because it's a pretty it's pretty gritty. Comic books in general have always been about like taking ideas because if you look at with like Marvel and DC, a lot of their characters like overlap or they are essentially the same characters, but they're just packaged differently.
Mm-hmm.
And those two have sued each other countless times over and whenever they lose a copyright, they give the person a new name, but they find some way, like Shazam. Shazam was
Originally
um,
Captain Marvel, right?
that's right. And then there was the big blow up, big lawsuit, and so now Captain Marvel is a woman in
Marvel.
a
Mhm.
cosmic powered woman, but then Shazam is he's the byproduct of a wizard, and so that's how that came about. But that's a perfect example of that.
Okay. Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. Now,
Yeah.
one last question, because again, we trying to give gems as much as we can. Um, did you get your copyright and that process the moment you kind of finalized, like, hey, this is who Gideon is going to be, like the Watcher is going to be, or was it, all right, the moment I got it, guys, let me get it done, just for writers to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did. I got the copyright done first just because I felt like the story was a winner. I just felt like it was the story,
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
the story that I would tell for a long time. So I did get that done first, for two reasons. For that reason, and then I was dealing with several co-writers at the time,
Mm.
and I was afraid that they were going to try to take control or take the character for themselves. So I did that as a protection, and then later on, unfortunately, I don't draw.
Okay.
But later on, I had to hire artists to create my vision, the vision that I had.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so there were some artists that were trying to make a play for the character as well. So the copyright really put an end to that and kind of stopped it. And so I got that done before I published.
Okay.
It was I was still in the editing process when I got that taken care of. As
Okay.
far as the trademark came later. I got the trademark after I had opened up all the socials and I was posting the Watcher on socials. I did the trademark because at that point there were like fans and just other um, independent writers, self publishers who were trying to take things from the character. And so I realized I had to get him trademarked and I had to get the logo and everything. So trademarked. And so that came about much later and it was a little bit more, but also worth it.
Okay. No, I like that. I really, really like that. That even helps me out. And we'll talk off screen about some things in the green room, as they say. Now, can we answer some fan questions? Because I know they will be
Yeah.
I know one person will be extremely upset if I have great, and I do mean he calls you the great brother Walter on here, and I do not get some of his questions answered. So is that cool? It'll only be about the first book, not the second one, but just the
I'm
first.
I'm cool with that. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, bet. All right. So, question number one: do the blades come from Komet?
They do not.
Okay.
And when I read the question, I was like, this fan really read the book, really gets it, really
Hmm.
connected. And I knew I can understand the thought process behind it, but they don't actually come from Kemet.
Okay.
They actually
Egypt for the uninformed. There you
right Egypt from
go.
they don't actually come from Egypt.
Okay.
They actually are tied back to two of the judges. So there's a judge named, or they've passed on now, but there was a judge named Ehud
Okay.
in scripture. He was a left-handed judge who was really good with. He was a good swordsman, but he was left-handed, and he created a blade, a special blade that he smuggled in um, to uh, meet the king of Moab
Hmm.
in scripture. At the time, the Israelites were enslaved to the Moabites, which would be, I guess, modern day Japan.
Hmm.
And he went before this king and was like, I have a message from God. I need to talk to you. And so, as the passage in scripture goes, the king's men left, and it was just Ehud, the Israelite judge, and this king. So he actually uh, takes the blade from that he made, and he actually like kills this king. And in the scriptures, it says that the king was so large, he was so fat that the fat just covered the blade. And so when his servants came by later, they thought he was asleep, but Ehud had killed him. And
Mm.
so that's one of the blades. And then the other blade actually comes from Gideon, which Gideon is actually the Watcher's real name. Gideon Joseph Samuels is the Watcher. But Gideon the Judge ties with the Sons of Thunder.
Okay.
Uh, his blade is with them. So a lot of people know Gideon, the 300 men who defeated the army just using jars. They cracked the jars or whatever. Um, but a lot of people don't realize that he actually was a good swordsman as well. Like so he had a he was good with, yeah. And so the blades actually come from them, and we're going to connect it more in the coming book,
Okay.
but coming novella. But yeah, those are where the blades actually come from,
Okay.
and why they're so powerful.
Uh,
Because of the men that they.
that's important. That's important. Okay. Next question. So again, this is just the fan world, because again, you gave that great explanation. So just for clarification, the Pharaoh didn't create the blades.
No, he did
Okay.
not create the blades. Pharaoh, as we read more and more about him, you'll the reader will see that he is essentially he's an extortionist and a weapons runner
Okay.
amongst other things. And so his whole things are weapons, artifacts, and stuff like that because that's really what keeps his empire going.
Okay.
Um, he also, as you know, he works with Athaliah because he really his whole thing is like exploiting the youth, and
Mm,
and so he did not create them, but he seeks those blades so that he can do some pretty messed up things. So,
okay. So again, just going deeper into that part, let's take the next branch. So, um, did he ever possess the blades at one point in time, or he never possessed them at all? Or is that
um,
you ain't gotta say it if it's giving too much
um,
away. You ain't gotta say it. You ain't
I
gotta
don't
say
want to. I don't want to give it
it.
away,
Okay.
but
Okay.
it,
Okay.
it will actually be explained in the coming book.
Okay.
So
So
that's a great question. So.
okay, that is. I'll give him a shot. I promise. When he sees this, he's gonna go crazy. Now with the character of the Pharaoh, I know he's older, right? Like I mean, he's been alive for a very at least from when I was reading it, and that's what I told
Yeah.
because this again, this is one of my brothers. He really enjoyed the book. And let me give you a context. Shout out to Shay. I'm gonna give him a real shout out. Shout out to Shay. He listened to this book on his way to work, and he works two jobs in the morning.
Wow.
So
Okay.
he loved the book. He loved the biblical references. He loved going back. because again, he's a man of faith like us, but he loved going back and being like, oh, he took that from that scripture and
Yeah,
that from
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So he was nerding out. Uh, and he was telling me stuff. I'm like, bruh, like, I'm not there yet. Like, I know that part of the word, but I'm not there yet. Like, he was like, yo, bro, like, did you see it? And things like this. I'm like, uh-huh. He's like, what was you thinking when you was doing it? I'm like, I was just reading like I mean, I wasn't just reading, but I was just wanting to deliver a really good, really good performance.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, but ask him when you get there. I'm like, okay, I will ask him. So the Pharaoh is extremely old, right?
Yeah.
Like he's, and I would grant to say that he's been alive since the conception of ancient Egypt. Is that true or not true?
That's true. That's very
Okay,
true. Yeah,
okay,
and this is where the spiritual aspect. I don't like to use the word mystical because
yeah, 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 yeah.
the source is actually scripture throughout.
Mhm.
So I don't want to say mystical because, like, Marvel and DC will say, well, he's a mystical hero, mystical
Right,
villain, something. So I
right.
don't want to say that, but this is where the spiritual side of the series comes in because it's very much realistic and gritty, but it also has like some spiritual elements too. And so that's that's where the Pharaoh's age and him, surviving for as long as he has.
Yeah, yeah. And I like I said, we'll talk off screen, and I'll tell you some of the stories I'm working on, things like that. But I really like old ancient characters who like have been here since, before wherever the book takes present place. You know what I'm saying? Because it's
Yeah.
like they just know so much. They've seen, whether they're good or bad, like they know so much, they've seen so much, it just factors into who they are as a person. Like, like the Pharaoh just has such a, like, he's modernized obviously with the weapons and things like that, but you can tell he still has that old kind of, you know, I've seen it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen
Yeah.
it, I've done it, or I know somebody who did it, and that just kind of factors into who he is as a character. You know what I mean?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. All right. So the Ennead, I know his question was, it seems as though they were right at the gate or the doorstep of Uncle Nate's barbershop. You know what I'm saying? And things like right there. So he asked, like, why didn't they go in? You know what I'm saying? Like, what stopped them from going into the barbershop besides the brothers, doing their thing?
Um, Man, because I don't want to give away
Okay,
too
okay,
much.
we ain't got to give it away. We ain't got to give it away.
Um,
Okay, we ain't got to do it. We ain't got to do it. We ain't got to do it. All right, all right. Next question. Because I'm sorry, Shay. I'm asking two good questions. You got too many good questions, bro. We can't do it. All right. Are Uncle Nate and his father angels in disguise? Still giving too much away. I can tell. I can tell.
yeah, if I say it, it'll take so much away from
Okay. All
the
right. We'll,
book I'm
we'll
finishing.
we'll skip that one.
But I'll just say yes. These are some really good questions, and I can tell that
I,
yes, these are
when
really good.
he literally is texting me now. He's literally, like, when I tell him we just did this interview, he gonna go crazy. Um, so I will ask this. So the Ennead, they seem to be like the Pharaoh's own special forces unit. Is that kind of like the inspiration behind them?
Yeah, absolutely. They
Okay.
that's simply put, that's who they are. They
Okay.
are the Pharaoh's Special Forces unit. They themselves have abilities similar to Pharaoh, and
Okay.
and longevity is one of them.
Okay. Okay. So they've
Um,
been around for a little bit too. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
um, and they go back. I'll just say this: they go back to the time of Moses, and I don't want to
Okay.
give away too much,
Yeah.
but
No, no,
yeah,
no. No, no, no. That's
but they
that's
go back to the time of Moses, and so they've been around for a good minute. They do understand warfare and
Yeah, no, I
yeah,
could tell because when I again as I was reading it, I envisioned them kind of like in the modern day, tactical gear, full tactical
yeah,
gear.
yeah, yeah,
They got the
yeah.
weapons, everything like that. So but they also might have like some ancient, like swords or spears or something, just in
Yeah.
case, they like, oh, we got to, like you said, it's a close quarters combat type of book, and I
Mhm.
love that. as somebody who practices self-defense and martial arts, I'm like, oh, this like I, like you could see them, being like, all right, we about to drop all of this. Let's go throw them hands. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Things like that. So I really like, besides I mean, I connected with a lot of the, like, all, I'm not gonna say a lot, I connected with all the characters, but I really was, as a fan, as somebody who was, again, like I said, it's just so dope when you can talk to the author, but when you can really engross yourself in a project, y'all, like, and you become a fan yourself, like I was like, yo, I want to see more of them doing stuff, because I just think they're cool. You know what I'm saying? Things like this or whatever. Now, he did ask, he said, the as we know, novella number one ends on a cliffhanger,
Mhm.
with Athelia in the Iliad retreating and things like that.
Yeah.
Do the boys have time to be trained? Are they getting trained? As again, let's just say the
Yeah.
world is active right now. So are they being trained as we speak?
They are. So
Okay.
I do feel comfortable sharing that part. Yes, they are being trained by Gideon the Watcher,
Yep.
which will also
That's what I
help
told him. That's what I
to,
told him. Okay.
to better bridge him because they're the Sons of Thunder they're like a spin-off within the Watcher comic book
Mm-hmm.
series,
Mm-hmm.
but they live in the same world, the same city and everything. And so the Watcher is going to train them. And so that we're going to see that
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
it'll actually cross over into the next two books, their book and then his book that's
Okay.
coming. So
I told him, I was like, nah, bro, like, the watch it, like, when he's so excited about the second one, he really can't wait for it to come out. I mean, I know everybody, like, more people are,
yeah,
but again, I just talked to him on like a weekly, almost daily basis. So I know he's super excited. But um okay. So I know the novellas are usually about an hour, hour and a half, something like that. Do we have a long 3, maybe 5 hour work in the process? And
we
the reason
do.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
we
we
do.
do, we do, because he asked, he was like, and again, I think this is such, as I said, I still give you your crown, and I do mean this. When you have people who are enticed by the appetizers, to put it in food terminology,
Yeah.
they want the whole meal. You know what I'm saying? Like, even me, I'm like, yo, I want the whole meal too. And I'm seeing it before y'all too.
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
this is a world that, again, if we're just talking strictly in terms of heroes and villains and comic books, it's something that you rarely see. And what I mean by that is, it's something that you can be grounded in. It can take you away. It can make you laugh. It can make you cry. I mean, it has such a depth and a reach that, you know you're reading a story, but it doesn't. I mean, you're listening to a story, and I mean, again, I'm sure there's copies, physical copies for those who want them as well. But it's like you just feel so like, yo, this is so real. This is, I mean, again, for those who grew up like us, I mean, you could go down the street, you can go to the church, you can go to, the corner store, the barbershop, and you will find these characters, in your life. Like,
Yeah.
these are real people who are in your life. All right. So I ain't giving y'all no more. We're not asking them nothing. We gotta wait. Even I gotta wait. So y'all gotta wait. Uh, even all right. Even I gotta wait. But it is a wonderful story, y'all. I promise y'all. It is one of the most wonderful things I've ever read. And I do mean that. You know what I'm saying? With the
Thank you.
sincerity in my heart. Like, it's definitely one of the most wonderful things I've ever read. All
Thank
right.
you.
Let's get in this. How can people keep up with you? Where can they get in contact with you?
Yeah.
What, I know you spoke about your blog post. Can you talk on that a little bit? Just, tell people, hey, this is, if y'all really want to get into this world, y'all really want to share it, tell people about it. This is where you can get in contact with Walter.
Absolutely. So I am on all social platforms. I did. Um, I am taking a sabbatical uh, just for a season because I'm, just fasting and figured some things out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But around the middle of next month, Those should be active again on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, so on and so forth. Um, in the meantime, they can follow. I do have a blog. It's on Patreon.
Okay.
Now, it is free to read, free to join. I put it on Patreon because some of the topics that I discuss on there, um, just dealing with censorship and stuff like that.
Hmm.
It was better for me to put it there because you own everything that you put there, and there's no censorship on Patreon. So there are a lot of writings about the African diaspora and how it relates to scriptures. There's articles and stuff in there on prepping, preparing for hard times coming. And then, of course, all of the books are on there, as well as the comic books. But I'm on Patreon. You can search for the Watcher comic or the Watcher series, and it'll come up. I'll also give you the link so you can,
Okay.
put.
Yeah, yeah, of
Um,
course.
I'm most active on there. I post like one to two times a week. So I'm most active on there. I haven't missed a beat at all. And then recently I released a Spotify mixtape just because I kind of wanted people to know kind of like the music I was listening to as I was, creating and shaping. And
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
I do have a Spotify mixtape, and it is you can access it through the Patreon account, or you can go straight to Spotify, and I'll give you that link as well. But
Okay.
those two are there, and then depending on how you want to do it, I can give you the URLs to the social medias. It's just they're hibernating until I'm done
Yeah.
with this fast, and so
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm very active. In fact, I at one point I was doing biblical teachings on Wednesday nights on YouTube, and so that's something that I want to get back to. That
Okay.
I am on active, pretty active on YouTube. So
Okay. No, send me all the links, and when you are, off your fast, um, I'll post the, socials, but I will post the Patreon, and
okay,
just so people can, again, we're forever building a fan base.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like that's as any writer or any, I mean, yeah, especially writers, but they'll tell you fan base is important. An organic one is even better. You know what I'm saying?
absolutely,
Things like
absolutely, absolutely,
that.
yep.
Yeah, this has been the first of many conversations because I do want to conversate with Brother Walter for every book that comes out. So this was literally just for book one, and I know we have a lot more to come.
Oh yeah, a lot
Uh,
more to
no, I mean again, and I'm thankful for that, not just for the work, but just because it's something that, and I told my wife this, I was like, I love the projects that I can feel passionate about, you know what I'm saying, and really take home and have good vibes in my spirit. Something that I know my family can listen to, who's old enough. Something that,
go.
my babies can listen to when they get old enough. Because
Yeah.
literally, I have some behind the scene photos and stuff like that, videos of my daughter, like she has on the headphones and everything. And she literally was like, it's Dada's voice. That's literally what she said. So that was, charming moment or whatever. But it's these moments, and I say this now, not just prophetically, but just speaking into the universe, because the power and life and death is in the tongue, and
That's
those
right.
who love it will eat of its fruit. Um, this is the start, man. Someday somebody's gonna look back and be like, "Yo, like this, this, this was where it started." Because again, that's how it always is. Like you find the YouTube person 5 years later, you find the book, that you've been looking for. Oh, so this is why I'm so excited, because it's one of those moments where it's yo, this is somebody gonna look back one day and be like, yo, this is where it started. I mean, it didn't start here, but just this was the boom, like it yo, like it's crazy. So
Yeah.
all right, y'all. Let me give y'all my information. So if y'all want to reach out and get in contact with me, Mr. Jason Cacpo Moore, not Senna Cacpo Moore, that's my wife, but you can get in contact with her, through her podcast. So since she's here, I'll throw that out there. Her podcast is let me make sure I get it right. Healthcare Boulevard. That's her podcast. My wife's a PA, a physician assistant. So she yeah. Let me say this. And again, I say again, she doesn't make me say it, which I'm glad, but Dr. Kakpo Moore, because she did get her doctorate
Mhm.
in public public health, something like that. Something like that. I'm sorry, y'all. But she did. She has her doctorate. So you can check her out on there. She's very active on TikTok. You can check her out on I believe she's Senna Kakpo on there. If not, she'll come up. She's on all podcasts, so YouTube Music, Spotify, all that, whatever. Now that I've gotten that out the way, if y'all want to get in contact with me, right? Y'all can check me out on Unmistakable Voices. You can find me on. I have a podcast which originally started out as a poetry podcast. I still do poetry. Yeah,
Wow.
I do. And I've been just like Brother Walter. I've been doing poetry and writing since I was 14 years old. So since I was 14, I've been writing poems specifically, and then it expanded into short stories and longer books. Like I said, I'll discuss it with him afterwards because I just want to relate with another writer who can see the vision, as he said, somebody who's not going to again turn my character Irish because they feel like that's important. Shout
That's
out,
that's
shout out to
why
the Irish though. I
that's
love
why
I love
I appreciated Sinners because I realized what um, Ryan Coogler was actually saying, and
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but I know church folks did get in their feelings, but
They did.
he
I
he
just
was really saying something if you really look at it, and I thought it
yeah.
was ironic that he used that the villain was an Irish, so yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure you noticed as well. I know some church folks who didn't even go, and I hate this, and I do say I hate this. I hate this about our people where we judge based on the cover and not
Right.
having going to see the thing. Like they literally did not go support this movie based strictly on the title. They were like, "Oh, sinners. I'm saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Jesus fire. Amen. He ain't gonna get me in that demon sanctification fied movie." And I'm like, bruh, like
That movie was probably more biblical than some of the stuff that has come out.
some of the we not gonna say the name, but y'all know the name. You know,
Yeah,
y'all know the name.
yeah.
Y'all know the name because he be having one face on the Oprah network and another face on Netflix. That's all I'm gonna say.
Right.
That's all I'm gonna say. So anyway, back to where y'all can catch me at. On the podcast, I do go into like I said, my poetry, my thoughts, my reflections of at the time just being a young black married man, but now I'm a young black married man with two kids, and experiencing America and all of that. So it's very very real, very very raw. There, and I will say this now because again that was back in my days, but hey, it is what it is. It's on there. There is some erotica on there, poetry, but it's good. It's good. It's not the slapstick blah blah blah. If you listen to it, it'll get you right. Okay, that's all I'm
Yeah.
saying. It'll get you right. But to the parents and guardians and stuff out there, I do have children's material out there. I just started doing epic children's readings. So I
Nice.
read like little kid stories with my family. So you'll hear my daughter, you'll hear my wife, you'll hear our son in the background. So you can hear those. Those drop every Wednesday, every Tuesday and Thursday on the podcast. I do a poem. If you want to catch me on YouTube, I do a lot of behind the scenes with voice acting stuff. So y'all can see, if I'm working on a Brother Walter project or some other project, just the process, because I think sometimes when people think about voice actors, they only firstly think of anime or cartoon voice actors, which is great that those are the faces of our industry. But there are so many other genres to voice acting that people don't even know about.
Right.
If you want to see some of the different takes that I've done on those different genres, you can check me out on Instagram, Unmistakable Voices. I'm pretty much on all social media, but I'm definitely most active on Instagram for voice acting stuff. TikTok is more behind the scenes, just family funny stuff, but I'm Unmistakable Voices on there. Um, what else? I got a couple books on KDP.
Okay.
They're poetry books, but y'all can type in dating, love, and marriage, volume 1 through 3. I'm getting some more of those. I'm working on a lot of short stories in the background, have been for years, but now that I talked to Brother Walter, I'll get his intake on, how to best approach these stories before I deliver them to you guys. Um, man, there's so many things in the work on my end, but and it obviously, if you're an author, you can check me out on ACX by just typing in Jason Kakpo and you will see the different the breadth of work that I can give you guys. I mean, again, whatever that, I mean, those 30 samples, some of them were done same day, some of them were done uh on an iPhone, like some, and again, like you'll just hear the different love. And obviously, without question, we have to do this because it's just so important. Uh Go check out Boanerges, Rise of the Sons of Thunder, you guys. It is an amazing, amazing book, not just because Brother Walter wrote it, not just because I produced it, but just because uh it's just this amazing story that needs to be told, needs to be heard. What I've been telling people is um I know Boanerges comes from the Greek name for the Rise of Sons of Thunder. Shouts out to Shay because he put that out there. It's like Shay is our number one fan.
Yeah,
But
I love it.
um, just if you type in my name, I'm sure if you type in Brother Walter's name, you can find it that way as well on Audible or wherever you get your audiobooks. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, any final words from Brother Walter?
Just thank you, Brother Jason, for having me on the show. I feel really blessed just being able to come on and talk with you. And I really do believe that our connection, our meeting was divine. And so thank you for just
Yeah.
being obedient to the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, thank you. And again, this is all spiritual now. Thank you for being obedient to the Holy Spirit. And I'm gonna end this. It won't be this way every time, y'all. I promise. But dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for allowing Brother Walter to get the inspiration for this world, this character, these series. Thank you so much for allowing him to hear my audition and be like, hey, this is my guy. This is the one. This is who I know can bring life and love and cinematic quality to this book. Thank you so much for all the fans who will see this work, hear this work, love this work. Thank you for it getting into the right hands of whomever is supposed to make this universe and world expand into the way it's supposed to be. Uh, we thank you. We come before you right now as citizens of the kingdom of heaven. We thank you so much for hearing our petition because we're in right standing, we're in righteousness, and we just say amen. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. All right, we're gonna stop this recording, y'all. Peace. Unmistakable voices with Jason, Brother Walter. We love y'all. We out.